John Wick, Excommunicado.
At the beginning of this third film, John Wick is seen still being chased by the 1-hour time given by Winston during heavy rain. John Wick decided to go to the library by taxi because the road conditions were bad. John ordered the driver to take his dog to the Continental Hotel. Because he was going to run to the library after John Wick asked for the book's location he had kept a few years ago, apparently the book contained a seal medal and some coins. But soon, an old friend of John Wick's named Ernest appeared. Ernest knew in a few minutes the status would be excommunicado, and as usual, when money talks, that's where the loyalty of friends will change. After going from John Wick's library to the Continental doctor's residence at first, the doctor refused John Wick's presence because he was afraid that if anyone saw him later, he would get in trouble. But John Wick persisted because he still had service rights 5 more minutes because he was already quite familiar with John Wick. He finally let him in and sutured the wound. After John Wick's excommunicado status was official, the doctor stopped to comply with Continental's rules because the stitches were already halfway through. Then John Wick himself continued the stitches. When it was done, the doctor gave John Wick some painkillers to keep his body in a condition not only John Wick's successful excommunicado status is wearing but his open contract status has now jumped far to touch the figure of $14 million. According to when finished, Mr. Doctor took his gun but not to kill John Wick, instead he wanted some bullets to himself because he had already given medicine to John Wick. To trick if there is an investigation about him.
Be sure not to hit my leg. One may not be enough to graze my car.
After the Continental doctor's residence, there was a group of assassins waiting for him. John Wick spontaneously fled to a place that happened to be a firearms and sharps shop. There he found a gun but with bullets that did not match the experience he had. He immediately assembled it very quickly. After successfully escaping the pursuit of assassins, now in the middle of the road, John Wick must return to face another group of assassins who don't want to give up. John Wick runs away to a horse breeding place to hide and has to get back to his adrenaline rush. As time goes by, John Wick's contract status has increased to $15 million. John Wick kept running until he got to a theater. It turned out that the theater was the place where John came from. This is where little John was trained in martial arts to become what he is today. John's only purpose in coming here was to ask the theater director for help so he could take him to Casablanca, Morocco. It turns out that the medal is a kind of ticket that serves to ask for help. From the theory that I caught, it seems like a medal. It is a provision from the theater itself, so every student who graduates from the theater is always provided with this object, which is only valid once in a lifetime, to return and ask for help when there is no other way. The theater director objected because he was still tied to the high table, but John Wick kept insisting that he still had a ticket that he had never used, and when he saw a small child practicing, John Wick missed those days. As a sign that the ticket has been used, the metal is heated with coals and then directly affixed to John Wick's back. On the other hand, Continental has a guest, namely the adjudicator. This adjudicator is like an intel or high-table police officer to investigate the John Wick case against Santino in the previous incident. Because of that incident, and because Winston gave him 1 hour, his position had to be removed, and the adjudicator gave Winston 7 days to leave Continental. After coming from Continental, the adjudicator met with Bowery Group because it was known that his group had helped John Wick with evidence of a 1911 Kimber pistol, and for his assistance, Bowery was sentenced to surrender and was given 7 days to clean up his belongings. Thanks to the help of the theater, now John Wick has arrived in Morocco, the purpose of which he came there only to meet his old friend named Sophia, and again in the middle of the road, John Wick must return to face the local assassin group.
Enough!
Luckily the leader of the local hitman group intervened. He was named Yassine. Apparently this Yassine was an old friend of John Wick, then he drove him to Sophia's place.
Right.
After the responsibility, after arriving, it turned out that Sophia was already the manager of the Continental Hotel, the Moroccan branch. John Wick meant to come to him to collect the seal of the blood agreement where in the past John Wick had helped Sophia. Now John Wick needs his help. John asks Sophia for help not to kill someone, but John Wick wanted Sophia to take him to his old boss named Breda. Initially Sophia refused because his status is now a Continental manager. Because he already has a seal debt, Sophia must help John Wick. In another place, the adjudicator went to the best assassin in Asia named Zero. He meant he came to help the high table teach the people who had supported John Wick for the offer that had been given. Finally Zero and his 2 students were willing to carry out the mission. Even though John Wick still has a ticket, but once again that the high table remains above all, and without thinking, the adjudicator immediately gave the punishment right away. While Sophia has managed to deliver John Wick to his former boss, Breda, the coin manager, I mean the currency used to make transactions, that's where the blood agreement seal and the coins were produced. John Wick's goal was to see him so he could meet President High Table, and then Breda told him, but not directly, he just said that if John Wick wants to meet President High Table, please go to the edge of the desert, walk as much as you can. If you feel tired and then you faint, there is a high table aide who will find you. Feels enough information that Breda asks in return for the information he has given, and in return, he wants one of Sophia's dogs. Yes, of course Sophia refuses because she refuses. The dog Breda shoots. Luckily the shot hit the dog's bulletproof vest because Breda had dared to hurt the dog. A very fierce battle ensued.
You shot my dog.
After slaughtering Breda's men, Sophia delivered John Wick but desert, and after walking 1 day and 1 night, John Wick finally fell to. For Bowery, he was again visited by the adjudicator because Bowery did not want to surrender and for the help he gave to John Wick. So as punishment, 7 cuts landed on his face.
Avert your eyes, Miss Meat.
We go back to John Wick. After John Wick fell, he was found by one of the high table aides who were on patrol. Then John Wick was brought before the president high table after realizing it was true what was said by the circulation. Now John Wick has met with the president high table. John Wick's goal is to meet him only for penance and to get forgiveness for the excommunicado status he currently has because John Wick wants to live for a memory. He just wants to remember when he was still with the wife he loved so much. Fortunately, the president granted it, but on the condition that if John McCain's excommunicado status is removed, the open contract is to be closed, and he still wants to live a clear life, he must first carry out a mission. The mission was to kill Winston. Yes, John Wick was surprised at how he could kill his friend. The reason the president wanted to kill Winston was that in 7 days, he had not left the Continental. As a form of loyalty to the table judges, John was ordered to cut off one of his fingers. John did so with great doubt. John Wick kept on going on that mission and then John Wick immediately rushed back to America to kill Winston. When he arrived in America, Zero was waiting for him in the crowd. They were both ready to fight each other, but there was a group of small children blocking their movement with that opportunity. John used his skill that disappeared without a trace.
Nice trick.
Because John is already in the Continental area, fortunately, the situation is back to neutral here. Zero is honest that he idolizes the figure of John Wick. John Wick finally met Winston. Winston knew the purpose of John Wick's arrival, who would immediately kill him. Even Winston also knew that John Wick would be hesitant to do it all with a gentleman. Winston instead deliberately thrust a gun at John Wecko to shoot his heart immediately. When John Wick killed Santino right in front of his eyes, Winston could have killed John Wick right away because he had violated the rules at the Continental Hotel. Because Winston cared about John Wick, Winston let him go that time. And John Wick was touched and believed by Winston did not want to leave the Continental, and John Wick felt himself being toyed with by the high table, so Winston and John Wick decided to fight against the high table. Then the adjudicator came asking Winston, "Are you ready to leave Continental?" Winston still won't go on. He asked John Wick, "Are you going to shoot Winston?" John Wick too, he doesn't want to. Then for their disobedience to high table, the adjudicator immediately changed the status of this Continental to the status of a non-neutral zone, so now all business can be done at the American branch of the Continental Hotel. After the adjudicator changed the Continental status, 2 cars from high table came to slaughter them there. John Wick and Winston went straight to the weapons room to prepare all the items to fight against the high table messenger.
You, Jonathan, do what you do best. Parabellum.
Because the High Table envoy updated his combat equipment, John Wick and Karen was made into trouble because the bullets that were fired could not be penetrated by the bullet. Quite clever. Karen suggested John Wick use steel bullets with 12 calibers, guaranteeing that with these bullets, the suit they were wearing would not be strong enough to hold him. After everything was ready, John Wick and Karen went back out for Winston. He just sat back and waited for the High Table to raise the flag white.
Bangga bertarung dengan Anda, Mr. Wick. Senang bertemu Anda, Mr. Wick. Harusnya dia sudah pensiun 5 tahun lalu. Lambat dia sekarang, tapi tetap saja John Wick.
Sampai jumpa.
After John Wick succeeded in slaughtering the high forces, the adjudicator contacted Winston to negotiate. He said that we were the High Table, so everyone had to obey the rules that had been applied. Winston immediately replied. Finally, High Table decided peace, and Continental was back again in the shade of Winston in the middle of their conversation. Suddenly John Wick came. John Wick didn't expect Winston to return to join and serve at the High Table here, dubbed as a boomerang for himself. The adjudicator asked Winston what we should do with John Wick. Winston answered John Wick, of course. He had to die spontaneously. Winston shot John Wick straight away until he fell tens of meters from the top of the building.
Oh, he has to die.
After the adjudicator checked John Wick's condition, turns out he wasn't there. If it's true that John Wick is dead, then his body must be at the scene. The adjudicator is very worried. What if John Wick is still alive? John Wick will take revenge and will mess everything up on the High Table. According to my theory regarding Winston's actions, Winston didn't betray John Wick. Instead, Winston saved him. Let's look carefully. If Winston had betrayed him, he would have shot at John Wick's head, but here he accidentally shot him in the chest. And how else could John Wick with Excommunicado status not wear a bulletproof vest? And even more cleverly, Winston led John Wick to fall right at the exact location inhabited by the Bowery group. If the adjudicator had shot John Wick, he would have shot him in the head because he didn't want to be outdone. Winston, who decided to shoot him here, understands. Okay, go on. John Wick is still alive. He was successfully taken away by Bowery's group. It seems that Bowery is very angry with the 7 slashes that landed on his face, feels that they both have the same fate for the treatment of High Table. Bowery and John Wick are very, very angry with High Table. Okay, Here is the video, and what do you think? Is this film very exciting? Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss another new video. See you.